Okay, you might want to ask, what's the benefit of this Prajnaparamita? Will it help us have good sleep? Yes, definitely. Yes, good for sleeping if you have an insomnia problem. Is it good for relationship? In case you are having a relationship problem? Yes, it's good for that. Good for parenting? Absolutely. Is this good for business? Oh my goodness. Very much. Very much. Okay, so this is quite a deep and vast subject, and it's not going to be easy. Oh, I forgot that there's going to be translation for those who are not Chinese. They will have to bear with this, but probably this is also a good thing, because those who do wish to get into Prajnaparamita deeper, you might want to take note, and this gives you time to make notes. They are supposedly, in fact, they are supposedly, the teaching is so vast that what we have today, at least in the Tibetan translation, we have 100,000 verses, Prajnaparamita. About 12 volumes. Now this is, Tibetans and Indians are not so good with numbers, but this one is not an exaggeration. Then there's Niti, we call it, 20,000 verses, the collection of Prajnaparamita, 20,000 verses. So the 8,000 verses. The Prajnaparamita, even those who don't really understand what is in the text, in the Mahayana countries such as China, Tibet, it's quite a big deal. There are traditions such as just to having the collection of books in the shrine. Sometimes lay people request monks to even do what we call a shalche, which is just flip through the pages, not even read, just flip through. Prajnaparamita is I would say, like a heart and the soul and the spine and the head of Mahayana Buddhism. But not just Mahayana Buddhism. Buddha said in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, Gang Nyentuch Sala Labar Devijan, Sharabchi Parudichimbara Labar Chao, Gang Changjusim Sala Labar Devijan, Sharabchi Parudichimbara Labar Chao, which means those who want to achieve liberation of different categories such as Arhat or Bodhisattva, Yana, and so on and so forth, they all have to go through the Prajnaparamita. Basically, it's very important. In fact, Buddha said this is the only way. But of course, this time we are sort of just touching and discussing the Prajnaparamita Hridya, which is the quintessential Prajnaparamita Sutra, which is only like 2-3 pages. And I insist, we are only going to sort of, we will try to just provoke some curiosity. That's all, I could do. When asked Davatagwa Chandakirti, to whom should we teach Prajnaparamita or the Shunyata? One would think, he would say, oh, Harvard graduated or Campos. To them we should teach Prajnaparamita. But he didn't say that. He said Prajnaparamita should be taught, Shunyata should be taught to only those. By mere mentioning of the word Shunyata, they have goosebumps, they have tears in their eyes. Only to these people you should talk. There's also a story, once Manjushri discussed Prajnaparamita or the Shunyata. 500 arhats vomited warm blood, hot blood, and died. It's just not possible to accept. Let's see within these 5 days who's going to die. I, for one, I'm still alive, which means two things. I have mastered this completely, or I have no clue at all. Definitely the first one, I have to say this. Now, if you ask, who taught this? Then yes, Buddha. But when we say word taught, when we say he taught, not necessarily he used his lips and mouth or used language. Many times he taught in a totally opposite way, meaning not talking, not using lips. In fact, Prajanaparamita Hridya, he was sitting, nothing, he was, we will discuss this, but this is not coming from his mouth. And this has a very, very, very important, significant, we will discuss later, if I remember. Why was he not using his mouth? Why was his disciples discussing this? Why? And this is considered his teaching. This is a sutra, Prajanaparamita Hridya Sutra, which is usually is supposedly the words of the Buddha. So why is it categorized as this? Why not Shastra? Anyway, as I said, Prajanaparamita is a very important for Buddhism, and historically also places like China hosted. China is one of the biggest hosts of Prajanaparamita tradition or the teaching. Of course, Japan, Korea, they also became vessel for Prajanaparamita for many centuries. In India, in the past, Prajanaparamita was a very important, especially made more important by guys like Nagarjuna and Asanga. Okay, you might want to ask, what's the benefit of this Prajanaparamita? Will it help us have good sleep? Yes, definitely. Yes, good for sleeping if you have an insomnia problem. Is it good for relationship? In case you are having a relationship problem, yes, it's good for that. For parenting, absolutely. You'll be talking to your infants, babies, kindergarten students, should you be talking to teenagers? Yes, this should be one of the subjects. Is this good for business? Oh my goodness. Very much. Very much. Even in the Indian tradition, there's something called, they say you need to have fun. Then in order to have fun, you need to have money, and you need to have a discipline. And finally they say moksha, you need to know everything is illusion. These days, the fourth is what you don't hear from Harvard or Yale. They teach you how to have fun. What is fun? They teach you how to make money to have fun. They teach you how to have the discipline, thousands of books, but the last one they don't teach, that everything is an illusion. That they don't teach. This is why the business people, they suffer. Yes, so this is for happiness, this is for health, but they are all bonus. They are not the aim. I like quoting Chandrakirti, this one, again and again. What did Chandrakirti say? Chandrakirti said, the idiots do bad things and go to hell. Idiots do good things and go to heaven. Idiots still. Only the wise ones go beyond good and bad and get liberation. So this is so important. Is the aim to be happy and healthy and calm and peaceful? No. I have to insist this, because Buddhism is associated these days with happiness. Very dangerous. I will protest wholeheartedly. Buddhism is not for happiness. Remember, idiots do good things and go to heaven. They are the idiots who wants happiness. To be non-violent is not a Buddhist aim. I mean goal, ultimate goal. There are bonuses. This is so important before we even begin this. So for Buddhism, out of lack of choice of words, I will use the word liberation. Liberation is the goal. But the words like a liberation, nirvana, enlightenment is, they are so, I don't know, should I say overly used, or there's just so many, these words are used in so many ways. There's a nirvana hotel, there's a nirvana escort service, so on and so forth. We don't know, there's so much used. I mean, there are good reasons why these, it became like that, because of language, because of culture, and also because of capacity of people. So the liberation is heard and understood in many, many levels and different ways. Okay. For now, just for the sake of, this, how many days we are doing this? 5 days? 5 days, yeah. For this 5 days, but at least let's call liberation, we are referring to realizing the truth. I think this will do for now. But we will discuss this later. Okay? Okay, now, before we begin this, we need to prepare a few things. We need to have a sort of a mutual sort of understanding between, mutual understanding. So I'd like to prepare a few things here first. What I mean by a certain phrase, language, words, let's prepare a little bit. Well, we need to also sort of appreciate a little bit about how the Indians think. The Chinese and the Europeans, you'll have to sort of switch this a little bit. And also Indian way of constructing a logic, and especially Buddhist, that one we need to prepare a little bit. Otherwise, what I say, what you hear is never going to meet. To do that, first you need to know what we in Tibetan call Tangden Dang Ngeden, these two categories. Buddha taught so many things. There are certain teachings that he taught, he actually didn't really mean it. I dare not say he was lying, but it's kind of, he didn't really mean it. Then there are certain teachings that he really meant it. Okay, but now this is very, very complicated. This distinctions between whether he meant it or he didn't really mean it, there's a whole study going on. And this is a particularly, I was talking to you earlier about, how the Westerners and Chinese, they should sort of appreciate this a little bit, because I have a feeling that this is something, especially in the West, probably they don't have this way of thinking. I mean, yes, Cinderella and Alice in the Wonderland, mother don't really mean it, right? The mother, when she's telling a kid to put the kid to sleep, Cinderella and the Alice in the Wonderland, she didn't really mean it, but there is an aim. The mother need to put the kid to sleep. That is the goal. Because if the baby don't sleep, the mother gets stressed in the morning and then whole thing falls apart. Stuff like that. So there is an aim. When the Western philosophers, which I don't know much, very little, but when the Western philosophers or the scientists, when they don't seem to have these distinctions. But one thing I need to say, the scientists, they never make decisions. They say, well, this is so far the finding, but we don't know next year. You understand? Whereas in Buddhism, it's already decided. Okay? There's no changes. Chönamji chönini dejinshikmanam jungyang majungyang rung jurwa mebawo. Whether the Buddhas have come or not, the truth of the phenomena is unchanging. All compounded things are impermanent. All compounded things are impermanent before Siddhartha came.